Hello class, welcome to another edition of Mrs. Gregorio's tutorial videos. Today we are covering chapter 2 on percents, and this is lesson 4, so we will be learning about the percent equation. Open your books and follow along with me on page 129, please. Our essential question is, how can percents help you understand situations involving money? So today we're going to learn about the percent equation. And we're going to use this equation to find the percent, the part, or the whole. This is similar to what we did in lesson 2-3 and when we were solving percent proportions, but this time we'll be changing the proportion to an equation. On page 129, I need you to complete what you'll learn. Scan the lesson on pages 129 through 132. Predict 2 things you will learn about using the percent equation, and you need to write them down for credit. Then I need you to complete the vocabulary startup by filling in the blanks. And finally, I need you to complete the real world link by also filling in the blanks. So pause the video and complete page 129, please. Our key concept is the percent equation. This is found on page 130 in your books. There are 3 types of problems we will be solving today. One that asks you to find the percent, another that asks you to find the part, and the third type of problem asks you to find the whole. So when you're asked to find the percent, an example of this problem would be 3 is what percent of 6? Since it's asking you to find the percent, that will be our variable n. So 3 is equal to n times 6. Another type of equation will ask you to find the part. So when it asks you to find the part, it might sound something like, what number is 50% of 6? So in that case, we'll have p, which represents the number, is equal to, that's our equal sign, 0.5. Notice how we changed 50% to the decimal. Of 6 means we multiply it by 6. The last type of problem asks us to find the whole. So this type of example will sound something like 3 is 50% of what number? So what number represents the whole? In this case, our proportion equation will be 3 is equal to 0.5 for 50% of W, which represents the whole in our variable. Our vocabulary is percent equation, and to find the percent equation, remember that part is equal to percent times the whole. So if the part is 3, 3 is 50% of 6. Note that the percent is always written as a decimal when we're solving percent equations. So 50% becomes 0.5. So let's start with example 1, beginning on page 130. What number is 12% of 150? So when it asks us to solve this one, the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, do we need to find the percent, the part, or the whole? In this case, we have the percent, which is 12%. We know the whole is 150, so the only thing left is to solve for the part. Now, before we start solving with an equation, let's estimate to see if we can get an idea of what our answer should be. So we need to figure out what number is 12% of 150. So I'm going to change 12% to 10%. Of means multiply by 150. So 10% is really the same thing as 0.10. So 0.10 times 150. I'm going to multiply, I know 10 times 150 is 1500, but I need to move my decimal 2 places to the left. So I get about 15. That's my estimation. So now I want to solve it by setting up an equation this time. And so I know part equals the percent times the whole. So what number is our part? So I'm going to call that P. Is the equal sign. And 12%, I'm going to change from a percent into a decimal by moving it 2 places to the left. There's our decimal point. And I'm going to multiply this times 150. So the part 0.12 times 150 makes the part equal to 18. When you use your calculator, you can just type in those numbers, 0.12 times 150, and you get 18. So if you notice, 18 is very close to what we estimated as 15. But now, the book recommends we check our work, and so do I. In order to know if we got the answer correct, there's an easy way to check. What we can do is, now that we know what the part is, we can set it equal. So 18 is equal to 0.12 times 150. Well, 0.12 times 150 is 18. Since 18 equals 18, we can check our work, and yes, we are correct. Okay, so you just substitute the answer, P equals 18, back into the original equation. So what I want you to do is I want you to try A through D on page 130, and go ahead and write your answers through on the book through the work zone area. Example 2 begins on page 131, and it says 21 is what percent of 40? So for this type of question, are we asked to find the percent, the part, or the whole? Well, 21 is the part here. I don't know the percent, so that's what we'll be solving for. And 40, when it says of 40, that must be the whole. So before we begin, let's estimate. 21 out of 40, this is our part to whole relationship. That is about 1/2 or 50%. So 21 is about 50% of 40. Now let's be more precise by writing an equation. We know the part is 21. So 21 is what percent? I'm going to call that P times 40. So I'm going to rewrite that as 21 equals 40 times P. That way I can solve for my variable P. To do that, you just use the inverse operation of multiplying, which is division. 40 divided by 40 cancels out. Using your calculator, type in 21 divided by 40, and you get 0.525 equals P for the percent. Now this is in decimal form, but we need to change the decimal to a percent. So that means we need to move the decimal 2 places to the right, or multiply it by 100 to change it into a percent. So to do that, I'm going to move it to the right again, put my point. So the percent is 52.5%. So our estimation of 50% was close, but to be more precise, we found 52.5%. So when we check our work, we are very close, and our answer seems reasonable. I want you to try E and F on page 131, show your work for credit, and look at example 2 if you need a sample of how to solve these problems. Now let's try example 3 on page 131. 13 is 26% of what number? So this time, we know 13 is the part. Here we have our percent of what number means we're trying to find the whole. So we are looking for the whole in this equation. If we estimate 26% is about 25%, 25 over 100 is exactly 1/4. So 1/4 of some number is going to be equal to 13. Well, I know 1/4 of 48 makes 12. Since 12 is close to 13, I'm going to guess that the whole will be around 48. But in order to be more precise, let's use an equation. 13 is 0.26 for 26% of what number? I'm going to call this W for the whole. To solve this equation, we need to divide both sides by the number in front of the variable, called our coefficient. And 0.26 divided by itself makes 1. They cancel out. And now we need to divide 13 divided by 0.26. When you type that in a calculator, you'll see it goes 50 times. So 50 equals W. So 13 is 26% of 50. So I'm going to write that in a sentence. And there we have our equation solved. So try G and H on page 131. Remember to show work for credit. Pause the video so you can work this out, and then we'll continue on with our last example when you're done. For example 4, we can find this on page 132, and it says, a survey found that 25% of people aged 18 to 24 gave up their home phone and only use a cell phone. If 3,264 people only used a cell phone, how many people were surveyed? So I'm going to start by looking at the words they tell us. In one sentence, we know 3,264 people is equal to 25% of what number? So here we have the part. Here we have the percent, but we're missing the whole. So that's what we'll be trying to find. So let's let W represent the whole number of people that were surveyed. So this brings us to our equation. 3,264 is equal to 0.25 times W. I'm going to simplify this by writing 0.25 W. To solve for W, we need to get rid of the number in front of it. So in order to get rid of the multiplication, I need to undo it with division. So I divide both sides by 0.25 using the inverse property of division. So 3,264 divided by 0.25. When you type that in your calculator, you get 13,056 equals the whole. So how many people were surveyed? 13,056 people were surveyed. And let's check to make sure our answer sounds correct. 25% of the people, the total, 13,056, 25% of that is 3,264. That does sound reasonable. So when we check our work, we are correct. Okay. Write down any questions you have about this problem and be sure to share them with us in class tomorrow. For Friday, you will need to bring your Chromebooks. We are going to do our playlist, so make sure you come to class prepared with your Chromebooks fully charged, and make sure your workbooks are filled with notes when I check. I hope you have a great evening. Take care, and I'll see you in class tomorrow. Bye-bye.